We just got a new Glock 40. Now it's a Hi Point, but we're gonna do some shooting with it. We're gonna get a nice review, and we're gonna show you why these have the reputation that they do. Let's get out here and get shooting. Send it! Hit the target every time. Let's see if it performs even better later.
Hey, what's up my guys? Welcome back to Practical Training Professionals right here on YouTube. I am Mike Bell, and today we are doing a disassembly, reassembly on dun-da-da-da. Let me see if I can pick this thing up. The Hi Point JCP, chambered in 40 Smith & Wesson. This is a big, heavy gun. And believe it or not, a lot of people own these firearms. So it would be a disservice of us not to recognize this firearm and go ahead and do a disassembly, reassembly video on it. So with that, guys, let's get into it. All right, guys, like I said, today we're going to be doing a disassembly, reassembly on the Hi Point Model JCP 40 caliber. This is chambered in 40 Smith & Wesson. This is a pretty standard build of across the Hi Point line of firearms. They're a pain in the ass to take apart, so we figured that we would go ahead and show a video. Now, just real quick, I want to show you something else, all right? So, time me on this. This is the Glock 17. We use this in a lot of our videos, right? So, remove the ammunition source, check the chamber, nothing there. Squeeze the trigger, walk it to the front, and it slides off, all right? So, we'll put a little timestamp on that. That's how quick it is to disassemble a standard Glock. Now, let's look at this baby, the Hi Point 40, okay? So, as always, remove the ammunition source, which is a pain in the butt because this gun is heavy. So ammunition source is out, nothing in there. Check the chamber, which is a pain in the butt because you can't look at the top. You got to actually look down inside of here, and there's nothing in the chamber. All right. So your very first move to do whenever you try to break down this Hi Point JCP 40 is rack it to the rear. This is normally your safety here, right? If you push that up, it's safe, okay? If you remove that or take it off of safety, slide the slide to the rear and engage the slide catch, just like that. That's the first step you want to do, all right? Now, there is a roll pin right here, okay? Now, what we're using today is a 30 seconds pick, or, you know, armor's pin, whatever you want to call it. And we have to take that pin out, okay? So, if you're out at the range, right, this can be a hassle. Sometimes you don't always carry this stuff with you, so make sure that you carry, if you own this firearm or you own a firearm like it, make sure you're carrying the tools to take it apart at the range so that you're not out. I'm not going to break out the armor's block for this video, simply because when you're at the range, you probably won't have an armor's block. So what I like to do is just throw an old rag underneath it, right? So we're going to take our 30 seconds punch, go ahead and line that up, and we're going to start tapping it out, all right? Once it comes out the other side, just like so, you should be able to just grab it. All right, we're going to throw that in our little magnetic tray here. Now, this is where it gets interesting. There's a lot of stuff going on inside this firearm right now that's under pressure, all right? And as soon as we start to take this apart, stuff's going to want to get flying. So if you've never done this before, pay attention, all right? Now, the way to take this off, instead of sliding it forward all the way off, right, this actually has to be lifted up and away, like so, all right? But when you do that, there is the damn recoil spring and guide pin that's in here that's going to want to go flying. So I like to point it down. It's going to keep all that stuff from flying away, all right? Now, we can slowly lift the slide up and off, all right? And it's not like super difficult, but it's not super easy either, right? And then here it is, you'll see that. Recoil spring and guide pin come out right there, all right? So we'll set that in the tray there. Right here, if you're field stripping this thing and you just want to clean it on the range, or you had a malfunction, stovepipe or double feed or anything, failure to extract or anything like that, that's about as far as you're going to take this apart. All right, you can come in here and you can clean it. Hi Point has this, interesting trigger that there has to be a bullet, there has to be a round chambered for the trigger to work. All right, now that's just a safety function, which is fine. All right, so at that point, you can clean all this, you're good to go there, all right? Set that aside. Now let's look at this big hunk of steel right here, okay? So this pin right here, you guys can see it, this pin right here is actually what keeps the two pressure springs on your striker, your firing pin, if you will. It keeps all of that in place. So that can come out. All right, set that in here. Now we'll go ahead and tap that out. Your two springs and your striker. All of that can come out right there. All right, so you can go ahead and clean all this. Get that good to go. Your springs, there's different springs in here depending on the caliber, but this one being a 40 has 2. And you can really get in here and you can clean all this out really good, okay? This doesn't have any real ports. It is fixed. The only exit for this firearm is right here. So you get a lot of carbon trapped inside this firearm. It's a pain in the butt, all right? All right, so that's how you disassemble it. Again, I'd really like to throw this thing on a scale and see how much this weighs. This literally weighs as much probably as that Glock 17 does. All right, to put it back together is a pain in the butt. Of course, it's going to be a pain in the butt. That's what you get. First thing you want to do is go ahead and drop your striker in from this side. All right. And again, you don't need to walk it all the way home, but you can. Take your two springs. Now, not your recoil spring. These are your pressure springs for your firing pin, your striker. Go ahead and drop them in. Again, I like to just make sure they're walked all the way forward. Now, this retention pin here, and I don't even know what the name of this thing is. I didn't bother to buy a parts breakdown for the Hi Point just because I don't want one. But this thing slides in here, okay? You'll see it goes in just like so. Now, if you don't put that in there, you're going to have problems when you go to reassemble this bad boy, all right? Now is where you've got to get creative. So there's no real catch for the recoil spring here. It just kind of does its own business in there, right? You can't really set it and forget it inside here. It doesn't stay, right? There's nothing holding it there. It needs the barrel, it needs the upper receiver essentially to hold everything in place. Now, when you go jamming on it, it's going to want to shoot out this barrel hole right here. Pain in the ass, all right? So, and I'm not, hey, listen, I'm being honest with you guys here. This gun is a pain in the ass to take apart, all right? Consider that if you're considering buying one of these things or picking one up in a trade, all right? So the way that I do this, again, I don't want stuff flying out on me, so we're going to do it like this. I take the firearm, put it barrel side up like that, all right? Now, make sure you don't lose this. That's important, but here we go, all right? I'm going to put kind of a finger on that right there, just my pinky. You see that? I'm kind of holding that in place here. I'm going to walk this thing forward onto the firearm using this nub right here to push down on that recoil spring and guide pin. Start walking it back. Again, pain in the butt. I ain't lying to you guys. All right, once you got it right there, see that? That's your pivotal moment, guys. All right, we got the barrel proud of the slide and the recoil spring and everything is compressed. Now, don't let go. Now we have to get that pin that we were holding. Okay, we have to get it inside this hole right here. Make sure you guys can see that. There's a hole right here that pin that we were holding that holds the firing pin spring in place. We have to get that inside there. All right, so it's kind of a pain in the butt and you're not going to be able to see it very well, but you'll know when you're there. All right, there you go. It's in. All right, now slide it to the rear. I'm going to slide to the rear and engage that lock again. All right, so now it's slid to the rear. Slide lock is in place. It's at this point that you would put your keeper pin, your roll pin back in place. But I'm going to walk through this one more time so you guys can see it, okay? Slide to the rear, lock it in place, take that roll pin out, all right? Barrel down, just kind of pull away from the firearm here. there you have it. All right. Here's this little pin right here. Now I just want to point something out. This little pin right here has to go in this hole right here, guys. All right. So when you're putting it back together, it has to go in that hole like that. And that's actually what that roll pin goes through. That roll pin would go in there and hold this thing in place that holds your firing pin spring, your striker spring. All right. But you could try to, I've tried both ways, putting that in here and then trying to line this thing up, and it's kind of a pain in the butt to do that, but your results may vary. All right, so let's go ahead and drop that thing back in here. All right. There you go. Make sure this back pin is lined up. There you go. And there you have it. Rack the slide to the rear. Lock it in place. Go ahead and put your roll pin back in. Again, I'm just using a cheapy old hammer. Actually, I've had this hammer for about 20 years now. S-Wing 16 ounce. My finished carpentry hammer back when I used to do that. So there you have it. All right. Again, 3/30 seconds punch. Make sure everything's locked in here. And tap that in. Check both sides. Make sure it's flush. And we're good to go. Functions check, good to go. Magazine in, locks to the rear because it's empty, as it should be. Good to go. And with that, get all this crap out of the way. You have effectively disassembled and reassembled your Hi Point 40 Smith & Wesson Model JCP. While we're at it, we might as well go ahead and put the Glock back together, right? So let me show you guys how to do that real quick. Align the slide guides with the slide and done. So it really is that easy, guys. So with that, you've effectively seen how to disassemble and reassemble your Hi Point JCP chambered in 40 Smith & Wesson. What's the takeaway here, guys? It's a big, heavy gun. My experience, and it's not for this video, it's really not very reliable. It doesn't have very good action. You get some double stuffs at times. I don't like that. To take it apart, you actually need tools to disassemble this firearm, which is something that not a lot of people feel comfortable carrying with them or performing. So that's something to consider whenever you're looking about buying this firearm. I mean, it's a gun, and if your life depends on it and this is the only thing you can afford, I'm not going to tell you not to buy it, but I would advise you to maybe shop around and see if you can find something else. Something easier to work on, something easier to field strip whenever you're out in the field, something more reliable, something that's not so heavy. There's a lot of things I could say about this Hi Point. Now, let me ask you guys, let me tell you guys this, all right? If you live in Southern Maryland, if you live in the tri-state area, and you're interested in shooting this Hi Point without buying one, we always have it at our gun buffets. We always take this thing out. We always let people get hands-on with it just so that they know. It is a useful training aid, so where you can compare something between this, which is your Hi Point 40, and this, which is your Glock 17 chambered in 9x19, all right? It's good to be able to try them both out. Yeah, so with that, guys, if you like what we're doing here, if you want to continue to see this channel grow and help us do that, please do us a favor, jump down there, hit that subscribe button, and if you really like what we're doing, give us a thumbs up, turn on that notifications, leave us a comment, and share it with a friend, guys, all right? Because the only way this thing grows is with your help. So with that, as always, learn, defend, prevail. We're out.